Hi everybody, John here. Thanks for joining me for another Allan Holdsworth lesson video. Again, this is going to be part of my little SynthAxe series where I go through some of the tunes and songs that Allan played on the SynthAxe, and this time I can call it a song because it All Our Yesterdays, which is what we'll be doing, actually has words to it and then vocals, and someone used to give me a hard time about that, calling the instrumental stuff songs. But in any case, this is actually relatively simple to play physically. But the problem is just like Looking Glass and Distance vs. Desire, it's another song that switches from fifths tuning to standard. But we can actually see how simple the chords are actually going to be. And for the most part, most of the chord progressions that Allan wrote in fifths are actually physically simple. They're not anything really crazy. A lot of the real close voice stuff you really are able to do in standard. That's where you get all the weird stretchy stuff. So anyway, here's a little bit about the song. So the title, All Our Yesterdays, actually comes from the second to last episode of the original Star Trek series. And other interesting things about that episode are the Atavachron comes from that episode. And Atavachron is not only a tune that Allan wrote, but also it's the name of the album that All Our Yesterdays is on. Zarabeth is also in the episode too, which is also a tune that Allan wrote that came out on Wardenclyffe Tower a few years later. The vocal melody is interesting because it's not the top note of the chord that Allan is playing. Typically when Allan's writing a chord progression, the top note is the melody, but this time the melody that's being sung is independent of the chords that Allan's playing. And this is similar to other tunes like White Line or Temporary Fault or even Endomorph. Now the beginning and the ending of the song, which has vocals on it, have no drums in it, but the middle of the song actually has this completely improvised section of electronic drums as played by Chad Wackerman and Allan improvising on the SynthAxe. And all the lines that Allan's playing, that entire solo, is tuned in fifths. It's to my understanding that this is supposed to represent some sort of fight or a battle. And in my mind I think of William Shatner fighting the Gorn. But I don't remember where I had read that. I guess it's just how I'm interpreting it. So the only two solos off of the album Atavachron that have a SynthAxe solo is Non-Brute Condiment and Atavachron, and they were both tuned in fifths. The lyrics and vocals were done by Rowan Mark. Now she originally was supposed to sing on Home, which appeared on the album before Metal Fatigue, but Allan couldn't get it to sound right, so he abandoned it. But after writing All Our Yesterdays on guitar and then applying it to synth, he had the idea to phone her up and ask her to write some lyrics for it. And after she sang it over the phone to Allan, he was completely blown away. And this is another very rare instance of Allan saying that he was very pleased how the piece had turned out. She also wrote lyrics for Secrets and Endomorph, but only sang on the track Secrets. All Our Yesterdays was recorded in 1985 for Atavachron, and it was never played live. Some of the reasons why I can think of it, why it was never played live, is after early 1985, when Allan disbanded the original IOU band with Paul Williams, he never had a singer in the band anymore. And all the previous songs that they did have vocals on, like White Line, actually were written as instrumentals first, and Steve Hunt would just play the vocal melody on the keyboard. Now, he could have done that with All Our Yesterdays as well, but this was also written during the time, which was still really early with the SynthAxe, where, as I said, it changes from fifths to standard. The foot switch wasn't available yet for you to cycle through the banks, so you had to switch the tunings manually on the console while you were playing, and that could be a little bit cumbersome. So I'm thinking those two reasons are probably why it was never performed live. Also, there's no bass on this entire track. Pretty much the entire piece is solo Allan rubato just playing chords with a vocal melody on the top, except for the piece in the middle where it's that interplay between Allan and Chad. So that could be another reason why it wasn't played live. And he's using the same sort of string sound that we heard in Distance vs. Desire. So again, I think he's using that Oberheim Matrix 12 string sound in order to play these chords. And also, like Distance vs. Desire, it's got that very rubato feel where the chords are held out for as long as you sort of feel like they should be, instead of it being set to a strict sort of time. Although what's different about this piece compared to Distance vs. Desire is that there's a little bit of experimentation going on with it. when Allan first got the SynthAxe, not only did he experiment with the different sounds and different tunings that he can use with it, but he also wanted to experiment with some of the other features that he's done on regular electric guitar, which is really using the volume pedal and using a harmonizer. So in the middle of this of the song, Allan actually uses a volume pedal to swell in that string sound, and that's the same thing that he would do for that sort of clean choir chordal sound that you heard in Shallow Sea or the Un-Merry-Go-Round. And he also uses a harmonizer to it. Allan was using a harmonizer a lot on the Metal Fatigue album, on Metal Fatigue and Panic Station, the middle section of the Un-Merry-Go-Round, and Devil Take the Hindmost. So at the very end of this song, Allan actually uses a harmonizer an octave higher on that string sound. And I won't be able to do either of those, but I can at least simulate that harmonizer sound, because what's nice about the Oberheims is that you can set the voices any interval you want. So I have one that's standard, the normal pitch, and then one an octave higher to get that effect. Now finally, for the lead sound, I'm really actually not sure what Allan's using. I actually think he might be using a DX7 on it, or a TX7, because there's a certain quality to it that I can't really describe, but it doesn't sound like an Oberheim. I could be wrong, but I don't have that patch, so I'm not going to be sort of experimenting with it. But again, that string patch, which is what we use for Distance vs. Desire, was also created by Luigi Masella, so thank you again for allowing me to have those patches so I can do these videos. So let's get down to the song. Alright, so the beginning of the song is in fifths tuning, and I might not have said last time in Distance vs. Desire what fifths tuning is for Allan, but it's the same no matter what song or tune Allan's playing fifths in. It's always this. It's F, C, G, D, A, and E. And that top E is the same pitch as in open E string and standard tuning. And like the top four strings are like the top four strings on a violin. Of course, maybe I don't think the same register, but it's tuned the same way, just with two extra strings on the bottom. And this also might be the first time that Allan actually wrote something using the keys. Before that, like when we did Looking Glass, I know we did Distance vs. Desire, but that came later. But Looking Glass and Non-Brute Condiment, we were using the trigger strings on the top here. And I think for some of the other ones, a Tavercron, I know he uses the trigger strings, but some of the other ones are hard to tell. I'm pretty sure he's using the trigger strings, but this one really makes sense that he's using the actual keys on here because it's a string sound. It kind of works with it. So a quick rundown of how these keys work is that we have 6 keys. Each one represents a string on the neck. So we've got the bottom string to the top one. Of course, it doesn't even have to be low to high because you can tune it however you want, but it just represents the 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st string. Then we have the group trigger strings here, which do the 4th, 5th, and 6th string, and the top ones here that do the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd string. And then this master key here that does all 6 at the same time. So I'll be talking about how Allan uses. I don't think he ever uses the group strings. It's usually playing with his fingers or the master trigger here. And that's actually how we start the song. The first chord of the song is this D major 7. And we have a root, 5th, 3rd, major 7th, which we've seen before, and then this major 3rd here again, and then we're playing a D note here, because if you look, in 5th tuning, the lowest string is an F and the highest one is an E, so we have a major 7 interval right there, so the actual octave would be 1 fret higher on the high E string, and Allan plays that note. And it sounds a little weird because we have a flat 9 interval. We're playing a C sharp here, right? This should be C sharp, and then D on the top. And Allan loves exploiting that flat 9 interval. If you want a quick hack, if you ever want to get a sound or a chord that sounds like Allan, if you find any chord that has a half step in it, make it a flat 9. So the first chord is D major 7. And then the next chord is a C sharp minor 11. And again, we have this minor 11, minor 7 chord on the bottom. We have a 1, 5, flat 3, flat 7. And now we have an 11, and then we have the root again. So we have this C sharp minor 11 chord. And then we go back down to that same B flat, we go major 7 chord. Well, it's not this, it's the same voicing. So D major 7, C sharp minor 11, B flat major 7. And then this chord, which is really interesting because it's very not Allan. He plays this shape here, and it's actually an F sharp dominant 11 chord. We have a root, the 5th, and then we have the 4 here, which is really the 11, and then the flat 7, and then again we have the root here and the major 3rd. And we'll see this in the next video I'm going to do, which is a little bit of a hint how Allan doesn't like dominant chords. So it's unusual here that he's using just a straight dominant chord or tonality. So we have F sharp 11, and then again, which really shows how Allan's really writing these pieces. He's never, I don't think, thinking of them harmonically. He's just going by shapes and feel and what he hears. What he does is he moves his first finger down a fret. So we're on the 13th fret here with our first finger. And then his first finger moves down from 13 to 12, which is all fine and dandy. But now what ends up happening is that changes the context of the entire chord. And now we have an F sharp, we have an F major 7 sharp 11 with the flat 9. So we have a major 7, the root, and then the flat 9, which are 3 notes a half step apart, and that's incredibly rare for a chord that Allan plays. If we look here, we have the root, the 5th, and then we have the sharp 11 here, and the major 7th, and then we have the major 3rd. So over there is these bottom 3 strings we have major 7 sharp 11, but then we're still playing the F sharp on the top. We're voice leading into it. But what's crazy is that it doesn't sound dissonant. Again, I think it's because of the register that these notes are in and the patch that you're using, but it does not sound dissonant. So this is an F major 7 sharp 11 flat 9 chord. Then you move all the way up to the 18th fret, and now you're playing a B11. You're playing the same chord as before, this B11, and then you're moving down to E11. So we were using the same couple of shapes that we saw before with the major 7, minor 11, and even that dominant 11. Then after this is a little bit different. Allan plays a C add 9 chord. So the bottom is we've got root, 5th, 3rd, root again, 5th, and then the top part is that 9, that D. And then that goes up to G11. And then the final chord of the 5th section is this F 9 sus4, or F sus4 add 9. Because we have root, 5th, 4th, the root again, the 5th, and then the 9. So F sus4 add 9. So that whole beginning sounds like this. So that's all fifths, and then we go into the next section, which is all standard. Alright, so now that we're in standard tuning, everything's tuned just like a regular guitar, E, A, D, G, B, E, E, A, D, G, B, E. This is the part that I think was actually written on guitar. The previous part that was in fifths. It's possible Allan wrote it on a fifths neck that he had, but that fifths neck was only a 5-string neck, so it went from C to E, C, G, D, A, E. And the piece that we just played used all 6 strings. So I think that part was actually written on the SynthAxe, but it's just speculation on my part. So now, instead of using the group trigger strings, we'll be using the individual keys. So the first chord here is this B flat major 13. And now what I think of this as is a tension substitution, which I learned from Juan Das. I think he got it from Berkeley, which is a genius idea. You could think of it as a B flat major 7, but now you're replacing the 5th with the 6th of that chord, or that scale really. And the whole idea is you can basically play any note chord and move any voice up or down to the next note in whatever scale that you're playing. And sometimes it's very easy to come up with really cool Allan sounding chords that way. And they could be also difficult to name. So that's what I'm thinking here. And Allan basically plays this diatonically for a little bit in B flat. So the first chord here was you have the B flat major 13. Then it goes to a C minor 13. So this would be like, if we're in B flat, that would be our 1 chord. This is our 2 chord now, because it's like got a Dorian sound, a minor 7, but now we're replacing the 5 with the 6. Then we go to D minor 7, but a sharp 5, or D minor 7 with the flat 13. And that would be like our 3 chord, a Phrygian, because even though it doesn't have a Phrygian sound to it, it actually sounds like a B flat add 9 in first inversion. Again, it's just how you're interpreting it as. So it's like a D minor 7, but you're replacing the 5 with the flat 6. So that's diatonic to B flat. And then Allan jumps all the way up to an F sharp 13, major 13 chord. And then basically moves that shape down, but now instead of having the major 3rd on the top, you're taking it off and you're playing the 9, but in this case it's a sus2 because now you don't have a 3rd. So this is an F major 13 sus2. And then the next chord after that is this E flat minor major 7 sharp 11 chord. So here's your minor major 7, and then your sharp 11 right there, or flat 5, but I'm calling it a sharp 11. You can think of this again as a D major with an E flat in the bass, and then a D flat major add 9. And then from there, Allan pretty much plays the same chords, now modulated up to a major 3rd to D. So D major 13 to E minor 13, F sharp minor 7 with the flat 13, B flat major 13, A 13 sus2, A major 13 sus2, G minor major 7 sharp 11, or again, sometimes it's easier to think of these as slash chords, so F sharp with the G in the bass. And then it stops from there and then takes a different direction now. So all those chords that we played were the same in B flat, just modulated up to a major 3rd to D, but now we're playing a different part to it. So now this I would think of as an F major add sharp 11 with the sharp 11 in the bass, or F major with the B in the bass. And then that goes to a C major 7 sharp 5 chord, or E major with the C in the bass, and then that repeats again. And then that gets modulated down a minor 3rd, so now this is a D major with a G sharp in the bass, or D major add sharp 11, to an A major 7 sharp 5, or C sharp major with an A in the bass. And then that chord gets moved down a minor 3rd to F, so now F major 7 sharp 5, or A with a major with a F in the bass. And then from there the chord structure gets repeated again, but now in D. So instead of, in D flat. So then we're playing D flat major 13, E flat minor 13, F minor 7 flat 13. And this ending's a little bit different. It does a B flat minor major 7 sharp 11, or A major with the B flat in the bass. And then quickly, it's only for 2 beats. Basically, I think it was just 2 beats. And then an A major 13. And then the last chord is a A flat major 13 sus2. And it holds on that. And then as that's being played, the next chord comes in that's now in 5th tuning, and it's playing an A flat major 7. Like that. So let me put that whole thing together and you can hear what I'm talking about. now that we're in fifths tuning, time for the next section. So as that A flat major 13 sus2 chord sort of fades out, the A flat major 7 in fifths tuning fades in, and they bleed together. It sounds really nice. But now this section, we're staunchly in fifths tuning, and this is the point where Allan's using the volume pedal, which I won't be doing, but using the strings to swell, they still sort of have the same effect. So the chord that we just left off on was this A flat major 7 chord, which is the same voicing as the first chord that we played in the song, the D major 7. So A flat major 7. Again, now playing all 6 strings. And then you take that shape and you move it down to C major 7. Then now Allan chooses this shape, and it's now a B flat major 13. Because we have the root, the third, the root, the 5th, the major 3rd, and then the 6th, and then the 3rd again, and then the major 7. So B flat major 13, and then that moves down to E flat major 13. 10th fret. And then this A6 chord, this maybe is the craziest one in terms of stretching, but it's really not too bad. This is also like a very similar shape that Allan would use during his zone sections. He would like sort of spread his fingers out wide in this kind of weird way. But it works well here. This is an A6 add 11 chord. And then Allan takes the 11, the D, and then moves it down to C sharp, so then it becomes just a regular A6 chord. And again, we have root 5th, root 5th major 3rd, the 6th here, the 5th, and then the 11th there. And then that, like I said, that 11 goes down to the major 3rd. And then you sort of retain this shape, but then you move it down here. It's a little bit different, but this chord's kind of weird to name. The top part of it, the top 4 strings, is a F dominant 7. So if we have an F, let's see if I can do, well, I'll start from the bottom. But now we have a F sharp and a C sharp. So it's like an F dominant 7 with an F power chord in the bass, or it's probably best to think of it as like an F7 flat 9 flat 13 chord, just with the flat 9 and the flat 13 in the bass. So let's see, we have an A, we have an F here, a C, and then that's D sharp, which is the E flat, and then I guess we have the, so we're trying to do this in a different tuning here. And then we have A, the major 3rd. So major 3rd, flat 7, 5th, and then the F on top. And like I said, we got the F sharp, the flat 9, and the C sharp, the flat 13 in the bass. And then that moves down a half step. So E7, flat 9, flat 13. And those chords take a while to sort of swell in and swell out. And then it goes to that free improv section, which I won't be playing, but again, it's all in fifths tuning. So then after that's all done, the free improv with the electronic drums and SynthAxe solo, we get to the next section. So now this part's a little interesting because it's really hard to say how it's being done. Either the SynthAxe we're in standard tuning, but either the SynthAxe is tuned down an octave lower and the harmonizer is up an octave, or the SynthAxe is standard and the harmonizer is an octave lower. I don't really know. So and the same thing even goes for the next sections. But the way that I'm doing it is I've got the SynthAxe tuned in standard an octave lower with the harmonizer an octave higher. So the first chord is this G add 9. So I'm thinking of it as major 3rd, 5th, root, add 9, and the D on the top of the 5th. So it's almost like this G sus2 with a B in the bass. And then on another track, I think it's like the same sound he used for Clown, the solo. It's like a weird really deep, kind of gargly kind of sound. Allan plays D, G, A, like that on another track, which I can't really do here, but G add 9, and then the next chord is this F sharp major 7 that I always say that we've seen before, and actually this chord absolutely isn't funneled. It's the same exact voicing, which is also off of the same album. What a surprise. And that's what it sounds like. And Allan's also doing the same thing where he's playing the major 7, the root, and then the third there. He's just playing those 3 notes with that same tone that, you know, just sounds really weird. So then after that, the next section, the way that I have it, is that it goes from standard, regular standard guitar with the harmonizer an octave higher, and that's what I'm simulating here. And it's the first 4 chords that we saw of the standard section. So it's E major 13, F sharp minor 13, G sharp minor 7 with the add flat 13, and then C major 13 with that E on the top. And then that goes right into the ending, which is in 5th. So time for that section now. So that last chord that we played was that C major 13 with the E on the top. And then Allan uses that top E note to voice lead to the 5th section, which is also, like I said, 5th tuning with the harmonizer set an octave higher. I just have the other voice an octave higher. And it's an E major 7. And now all these chords are the same chords that we saw in the 5th section, just the major 7 and the minor 11 alternating. So E major 7 to D sharp minor 11 to C sharp major 7, C minor 11, and then finally B flat major 7. There's also another track underneath there. I don't know what it is, but it like makes the chord changes sound more pronounced. It's like a boom kind of sound. Again, I don't know what that is. That's my limitations on trying to figure out the soundscape of it. But that's what that piece sounds like, and that's really what the whole song sounds like. It's actually relatively simple. So I'm going to play through it, you know, with the direct sound so you can hear how it's all put together. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.